Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Jedi Eternal, the guy who finally remembers his podcast name, to episode 43. And I'm your co-host, Braxton Taylor, here with Andrew, giddy as a wee schoolgirl, Bolin.
I'm very giddy today. Oh boy, am I giddy today.
You know...
Oh man.
We, obviously, as we get later into it, there's a reason, but man... I'm still kind of just speechless from this last and final episode for season 2 of Mandalorian. Of course, we're not going to get into the spoilers until later this, or even the review until later this episode. But man, it is incredible. Incredible.
I wish we had recorded us during this episode because
I know.
I did things while watching this episode that I haven't done since I was a young child.
Since he was a wee giddy schoolgirl. I know, seriously. I knew you were going to be like this for whatever may come. We had no clue what would come. But I just knew that probably was going to act in this manner. But yeah, man, we should have recorded that and pushed it on our Facebook page. That would have been really funny.
Guys, if you haven't watched it yet, I encourage you to go ahead, pause us. Go watch it and then come back and enjoy this episode along with us. The excitement that we are feeling today,
it is.
The hope in the future of Star Wars that we are feeling today. But yeah, we're not going to go into any of it just yet. We have a lot of other things to talk about first. A lot of great news stories came out through this past week that I am excited to talk about.
Yeah, just the energy's high.
Energy is
very high
for sure.
So before we get into our regularly scheduled program, we do want to go ahead and give a few little announcements here. As we know, we're coming upon some of this holiday season here with Christmas and New Year's coming up.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to you.
Anyway, we'll never do that again. Anyway, so we obviously our episodes would fall on the dates in which Christmas and New Year's would be occurring when we would try to record and stuff like that. So we're just going to go ahead and say for this next 2 weeks, unfortunately, as much as we hate to do it, we're going to have to go ahead and postpone the episodes. So as today is 43, episode 44 will not be coming till basically 3 weeks from when you hear this.
It'll be January 9th is when our next episode will be.
Yeah, it'll give us a little bit of a break, but more than anything, it'll give us time to spend with our families, of course, and stuff like that. And
we'll come back strong with some first impressions on the High Republic. So.
Yeah, we probably won't have read it by then.
No, definitely not.
It's been up for like 2 days or whatever.
But we'll get our first taste of it.
As we know in our news in just a second, we're going to be having some official Star Wars stuff for our public coming out. So we'll have something to talk about, of course.
Yeah, and before we jump into our news, I just want to, it's Christmas time, and so I want to give you your Christmas gift.
Oh,
I wanted to do it over the podcast.
Oh, boy.
So, it's nothing embarrassing or anything. It's just...
It's a pair of women's underwear. No, I'm just kidding.
How'd you know?
Wait, those are his.
I don't know if I took off the price tag. Let me make sure it's not on here. I don't want you to realize how cheap I went on it. Okay, here you go.
Okay.
I know you have Christmas presents for me, and they're not in yet. They're gonna be in January, right?
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to give you yours now because it's kind of necessary that you wear it.
Okay.
Like in this next week. So.
Oh, that is beautiful. I love it.
It's Mando and and Grogu, and they're like kind of sitting there together, and it's got Christmas lights all around, and then it says "Presents are the way."
Oh, let me have that. Let me thank you very much.
Hopefully it fits.
So beautiful. I'm just like.
Yeah,
I don't appreciate the XXXL, but no, it's a respectable sizely large.
Respectably sized large.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That's very nice of you. Yeah, I was gonna say real quick. I had ordered some stuff for him for Christmases too, and I didn't realize it because I'm not gonna tell what it is because it's pretty cool.
He ordered me 2 things. I feel like I kind of let you down, but it's
well, it's what it is.
Maybe next year.
I'm more of a giver than a receiver.
Maybe next year.
Well, shucks, maybe next year. No, but I noticed that what I bought him, I didn't really look at like the the shipping is like late January on the shipping. I'm like, So it's like, anyway, we're gonna be having Christmas in February.
Well, and you let me know. You're like, well, and it's a limited edition. And
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
oh, limited.
yeah.
And I was like, well, yours is a standard edition.
Standard edition. Well, I love it.
Okay, I'm glad you like it. Yeah,
really
so you
love
can wear that, Christmas Day if you want. I mean,
I probably will.
Maybe Christmas Eve. Maybe just wear it the whole week of Christmas.
My mother probably wouldn't like that on a
You could-
Christmas day,
Yeah, well,
getting all together as family.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It'll be all right.
She'll get over it.
She'll get over it. She doesn't listen to this. I can say whatever.
No, she definitely doesn't listen. Anyway, but we do wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to each and every one. A very happy Life Day.
Yeah, hopefully
everybody.
A lot of you get to spend it with your families. But even if not, hopefully you have someone to spend it with.
Yes.
And spread the joy and love and cheer that we get to share during this time.
Yeah.
And also just with the great Star Wars stuff going on as well, it just makes it even better.
So much. And if you're alone on Christmas Day, we'll go ahead and tune back into this podcast. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Hey, happy Christmas.
Wake up. It's Christmas
Hey, wake
morning.
up. Wake up. It's Christmas morning. Your presents that you ordered for yourself are under the tree. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Your baby Yoda socks are there. You got your little plush Jabba the Hutt. There you go, buddy.
Get your pajamas on. Get you some hot cocoa. Merry Christmas.
There you go.
There you go. That. From Jedi Eternal to you.
Yeah. So
ASMR and Christmas experience. Merry Christmas.
We're going off the rails.
Oh my gosh. 6.5 minutes into this. Where were you going with this? Anyway.
Oh man.
Anyway, so let's get to the show that people pay for, or they don't. Anyway, whatever.
Maybe one day
you'll guys pay for us. All right, whatever. I want to quit my job. Anyway, no, I don't. For anyone listening that I work for that's listening to this, I don't want to quit my job. Just kidding. All right. So the news this week, we have per usual about 1,000 news stories. So this news, the news this week, the very first thing is that there are actual updates on some of the 2021 book releases. For a lot of them, there's going to be releasing 1 week earlier than they were slated to come out. So, Drew, what do you got on that?
Yeah, so two big ones are releasing 1 week earlier now. We have Thrawn Ascendancy Greater Good is now releasing on April 27th. So go ahead, put that in your calendars or go on Amazon and pre-order or whatever, however you do it. Mine's already pre-ordered, ready to go. And then Star Wars The High Republic, The Rising Storm, which is the second adult novel that will be coming out in The High Republic, is coming out June 29th. So
very nice.
That's exciting. I mean, the quicker, the better. So week forward is fine by me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously, you absorb the books a little more than I do, so I know it's especially better for you than me.
Yes.
But, anytime that Star Wars content gets pushed out earlier rather than later, it's something to be happy about. Yeah,
moving on to our second news story. We have the exact count of Andor episodes. So the Andor series, as most of you guys know, we talked about last week, is going to be released in the near future, I think 2022. I guess that's actually,
like that.
I don't know if you call that near future, but
2 years from now, but whatever,
But what we have on that is basically in the sizzle reel, the costume designer, Michael Wilkinson, is talking, and he says 12 episodes, 12 scripts, and over 200 named cast members, over 6,000 crowd people, a lot of creatures to come in from the creature department. So 12 episodes.
Yeah,
which is
respectable.
Which is 4 more than what we get from The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And I guess we don't know for sure if this is a 1 season series or if this is going to have more than 1 season.
Right.
They've not said it's a 1 season only. So to think that we're going to get 12 episodes potentially per season is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you go over it, 200 named cast members,
that's a lot.
Over 6,000 crowd people, they're taking this pretty seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. It went from us for months and months and months not even know what the show's name was or if it even existed to here's the show name, here's all of these crazy people you're going to have in this 12 episodes in it,
Yeah, I think this just continues to show that Lucasfilm and Disney are saying, hey, these are TV series.
Yeah.
That are on a streaming service but we're not treating them like average TV.
Right.
We're going all out. We are doing things as close as possible to movie quality as you could be getting in a 12 episode span. I mean, the amount of time spent in 12 episodes is going to be a lot more than what you get in a 2-hour movie, right? So there are, of course, some differences there, but they're going all out on this stuff, and it's encouraging to hear. And I'm starting to get a little excited about Andor, a little bit. I still have a lot of I just don't really know where they're going with it, but I'm getting a little more excited. So
yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I think it's one of those things for me where it's like, the story within itself, it's something that we kind of already are familiar with, and we know the end result, so it's kind of like, I'm not super pumped about it in terms of just sheer excitement. But again, it's Star Wars, it's new Star Wars. I'm just excited to absorb anything that comes out of these folks, because as we've seen recently, some of these shows have come, or not some of these, one show, Mandalorian, but some of the stuff that we've seen out of the Mandalorian is fantastic. And if they carry even half of the same energy into this, especially with all of these castmates and crew members and all the stuff like that, I mean, it's very possible that we're gonna get something special. Yeah. So even if the story's not just insane new groundbreaking stories,
right,
it still has the potential to be very interesting.
Sure.
So yeah. All right. So let's go on to our next news story, and that is, as I've kind of mentioned previously in our intro, the High Republic will actually there will be a live stream event, and it will be coming on January 4th, 2021. Fans can look forward to new looks, reveals, and things to come. I do have the Star Wars article here, but it says that there's a live stream coming January 4th, and it says, join the authors of Lucasfilm's upcoming multi-platform epic for insights, reveals, and more. And it says, a new era of Star Wars is almost here, and Lucasfilm is celebrating. StarWars.com is thrilled to announce that a special Star Wars The High Republic live stream will be held on January 4th, 2021 at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Or Pacific? Not specific. Wow. Anyway.
That's 12 Eastern for those of you who are around us.
And let's see. Just one day before the first Tales of the High Republic arrive in stores. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. But anyway, it's very interesting that we're kind of getting some hype up on this.
Yeah, and the big thing that they're saying they're doing here is giving some fresh insight into the characters and events of the High Republic, along with new announcements and reveals of what's to come. And so that's kind of the big thing there that to take away from that for me. I'm not sure exactly what we'll be doing at that point. It's kind of a ways away, but right. If possible, we might try to either, if a lot of stuff comes out of it, we will jump on Facebook and do a live stream. Or maybe we'll do like a written live stream comment type deal like we did with the announcements that we got last week. Do something similar to that maybe.
Yeah.
But either way, we will keep you guys posted and updated as we hear stuff from that.
Yeah. And if you guys would prefer one or the other, let us know. If you're hey, I love just seeing seeing you guys. It's cool to be having on video. So we prefer that. Let us know if you say because of the event and what it is. I'd prefer just to maybe have like a update live stream on comic posts. Comments we did for the Investor Day. So just let us know what you like. But it's gonna be very interesting. Of course, like I said, to have this much hype over a publishing series is pretty unique, and it's very cool and exciting for us too.
Yeah. Of course, it's no longer just a publishing series.
Apparently,
before we ever even got the first book, it changed. But
months ago we have. Oh, by the way, it's not a full video game, but on the Tales of Batu or whatever it is,
just a bunch of filthy liars over there at Lucasfilm.
Liars, man. It's and a lot of times their lies end up being good things for us, but. What if one day it's not? You gotta worry about it.
But moving on, The Mandalorian, the Disney Gallery, Star Wars: The Mandalorian. It was a documentary about the making of season 1, as we talked about back when they first aired that first season. They're adding a special extra episode to this. It's my understanding it's one episode, and it's titled The Making of Season 2. Mm-hmm. I think it's just going to be attached to the original Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, so you'll be able to find it there, I believe. And it's just going to be a behind the scenes on the whole season. And so I would expect that to be a little extra long,
Right.
But that is going to be streaming on Christmas Day, December 25th.
Nice.
So, we wrapped up the season of Mandalorian today.
Yeah.
And so if you want just a little bit more, maybe grab a little extra information, you'll be able to do that on Christmas Day. So go check that out.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I really enjoyed the behind-the-scenes series. Now, at first I was kind of like, really? One episode? For the entire season, which this season, in my opinion, was even bigger and better and crazier. But I think I understand why, because a lot of if you go back and rewatch it, because I was just thinking about this, right? Most of the most of the episodes really didn't have anything specifically to do with that season, right? It was just setting up, okay, The Mandalorian as a show is pretty groundbreaking. So here's the processes that we took. So all the same processes that were explained in season 1 are still occurring, right?
Yeah, that's actually a very good way to put it. Yeah. Looking at it that way, it makes a lot of sense, because I was struggling with it a little bit at first as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you think about it that way, it would make sense that we're just doing this one. I assume it's going to be fairly lengthy episode,
right? I
for
agree.
season 2, where they're just talking more about the story elements and decisions they made with that stuff, more so than how they made the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about one of the episodes for the season 1 was just talking about how what had come before, right? Yeah. And talked about how special Star Wars was, and there's a whole segment talking about the importance of the prequel trilogy from Dave Filoni, which was all great and wonderful, but it didn't have anything to do with season 1 of The Mandalorian. So I do think that obviously there's a lot of extrapolation to make that occur, and they kind of came back and realized, okay, we would like to do something for season 2, but I do think that since a lot of the core elements that we'd already talked about for the show is already explained.
Yeah, a lot of that still carries over into this season. So
Exactly.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, at first I was kind of like, oh man, are you serious? But it makes sense. Okay, so let's move on to our second to last news piece for the week, and that is Fennec Shand. So this is the kind of the assassin bounty hunter that has been hanging around Boba Fett. We kind of knew her from season 1 as well. And what's interesting is that she's actually going to be hanging around a little bit more, and we're going to get some of her backstory to some degree, because she will be in the Bad Batch series. And I think Drew may have a little bit more on that, but one thing that I do know is that we did see her on the Bad Batch trailer that we got during the Investor Day. So that was very interesting to see her, because I thought that's who it was, but I wasn't sure, so we didn't really have any official announcement. But Drew, do you have any more on that for us at all?
Yeah, so basically there was an interview that they did with her, and so she was talking about her character and stuff on StarWars.com, and she said, "Do you know how long I've had to keep silent about Fennec coming back?" She said, "This is the first time I've been able to talk about it." She said, "After the sizzle reel for the upcoming Star Wars animation project, The Bad Batch, was revealed last week, Wen still had to stay mum for a few more days," Filoni told her. Her response, "Dave, if you wanted to keep it a secret, you shouldn't have put me in the trailer."
Right. So there you go.
She said everybody is saying they just want the confirmation. So yes, it is Fennec. It's a younger Fennec, and she is voiced by me, and I'm thrilled and beyond happy that Dave wanted to create more of a backstory for her. So
yeah, that's really cool. And I will say that Lucasfilm, Disney, Dave Filoni, Favreau, whoever is responsible for this, has done a lot of things that has made some of the spoilers let's put it this way, some of the big, what am I trying to say, right? Like the big spoilers, the big events. Yeah. Like they've had some things that's kind of precluded them and that gave hint to them.
Well, we have a funny one for what happened to us in this Mandalorian episode. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, so they have a habit of doing this, so it is pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that her character could be a lot more interesting as long as they make it that way, right? So it is interesting, or it is very cool that they're bringing her back. I thought she's been very, very kick butt in this series, and I think it's been really cool. So yeah, I'd just love to see, like, maybe, I don't know how long this show is going to span for Bad Batch, so it'd be interesting to see some of her background, but also maybe why she's gotten attached to Boba Fett and why they're so close and stuff like that. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. So on to our last news story for today, and this is a big one. This is one that just randomly dropped last night, and I sent it to you as soon as I saw it, actually, and I was just like, wait, what? Like, there's so much to take from this, but we'll try to go a little quick on it, but because we're gonna go back to this and talk about some more of this in rumors. So
right,
but China exclusive Star Wars novel, The Vow of Silver Dawn, is going to be coming out. They just revealed this. It explores a unique sector of the galaxy, and of course fits into overall canon. Matt Martin of the Lucasfilm Story Group recently confirmed this. They made a video about it. I watched the video actually, and it's set toward the end of the High Republic era. Focus on that, the end of the High Republic era, and is said to focus on the Jedi and the strange relationships with sectors in the Outer Rim. Here's the really big thing about this, and they say it so casually in the video that I was like, wait, what?
Okay,
and
rewind the tape.
Yeah. But they're talking and they're like having these like this interview about it, and they go, and so this story takes place about 50 years before the Phantom Menace, and I'm like,
what?
Whoa, what?
So they're essentially saying that the end of the High Republic is about 50 years before.
Yeah. And guys, that has a lot of implications.
Yeah.
The fact that the High Republic era ends around 50 years before the Phantom Menace. Means a lot for the potential characters that could be taking place during this time.
And it's something that we discussed last episode, too.
Yeah, that's true. And also it has a lot of implications for the Acolyte, which we know takes place at the end of the High Republic.
Right.
And so some really, really big stuff there to think about. And we'll jump into more of what we think that could potentially mean in our rumors section when we come back to it, because we're going to talk a little more.
Right.
Some other reports about this. But what I want to talk about here in this news section is something that kind of actually bothers me about all of this.
Yeah.
And that is that this is a China exclusive
That's what I'd say.
Star Wars novel.
Why is China getting an exclusive Star Wars novel that's already released? That's what I want to know.
Listen, I have no problem, of course, with a China novel. That's fine and dandy. I mean, it doesn't bother me any. But why China exclusive?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Maybe some of our stories are exclusive to us. Maybe they don't get some of them. I don't know. I don't live in China, so I have no idea. Right. But my thing is, why ever create a Star Wars story that not everyone can?
Yeah, I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose, especially if it's canon.
It is canon. Yeah,
that's my point. But especially if it's canon, why would you make something exclusive to a certain country? It's like excluding section of the canon. I
can't wrap my head around it. It makes no sense. To me, I assume that they made a deal with a probably like a publishing company in China.
Right.
I assume they struck a deal so that they could maybe publish this, try to get a big book over there in China.
Right.
And China maybe was just like, this is exclusive to us, that kind of deal, maybe.
I just don't even know how that's even possible. Like,
I don't know.
Region lock a book.
I don't know. I mean, again, that's the one thing about this that really is confusing to me. I'm sure we will get somebody that will adapt this on the internet somewhere for English or something.
But just to think that is a canonical novel.
But they said they have no intentions of releasing this outside of China. And so
I don't know.
It's really puzzling to me. I think it's a horrible move. Honestly, it kind of just looks bad, really.
Yeah.
Why limit people from experiencing any Star Wars story?
Right.
And that goes for even people in China. They should be able to read all the Star Wars stories.
Or any country anywhere. Why would any of the Star Wars media be exclusive to a country?
Yeah, and they don't really go into why that's the case that I can find. It's just it is what it is for now.
I don't know. That's bizarre. I don't know.
I hope that this eventually changes and that eventually we'll get it in here in America. But until then, we'll just have to probably hear from other people what this story entails and what it has in it.
Yeah.
And maybe you can purchase, maybe you can get it shipped over here from China, but even then it's going to be written
probably
in Chinese, so I'm not going to be able to read it.
I mean, I study on Duolingo like twice a month. But Just kidding. No, I don't.
I mean, I could take pictures on Google Translate and see if it can translate it.
I don't know if it's going to translate that well, but you know, we can try, I guess.
I might get the gist of the story. You never know. Right. Anyways, we're gonna jump back into that, but we'll move on.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. Yeah. Most of it negative, so let's just move on. We're trying to keep a nice, happy, light show here. All right, so that was the end of our news section. So let's go ahead and move on to our rumors for the week. So the very first not news rumor, wow. The very first rumor for the week is pretty interesting, and that is Boba Fett, the actor Boba Fett at least, is Tamira Morrison, is apparently joins the cast of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Again, this is just rumors, but it's very interesting that maybe, because we've always talked about how we'll probably get some flashbacks and things of that nature. I feel like it would make sense to maybe have Rex or something along those lines, or maybe even seeing Boba, but I don't know. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think because we hear that we potentially are getting flashbacks, he could potentially play a lot of clones, right? I mean, because Tamir Morrison,
well, I guess it's not really locked to Rex,
is the face of clones. But I would go to say that the main clone that we would get from a Kenobi series would be Commander Cody.
Well, that's
because Commander Cody was the one that was close to Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. Of course, we all love and know Rex, but Rex was more with Anakin.
Right.
And so the connection with Cody and Kenobi, I think, would be very interesting to see. And I think we could see in flashbacks and in Kenobi's present time.
Yeah.
Because there's still more story to tell.
Oh yeah.
With Commander Cody, we don't know where he ends up, what happens to him after Order 66.
I agree.
Yet, I think we're going to see him in the Bad Batch, of course.
Sure.
I think that we're going to see some of him there, but I hope we see him in the Kenobi series. I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's going to be very interesting, to say the least, trying to adapt him back into flashbacks. Because Tamira Morrison's much older than he was in 2004.
Well, they might have to de-age a little.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're planning to do that. But and again, this is still a rumor. But I mean, it's one of those rumors, like, I could easily see it being real, because why not? They already have Tamira back. Tamira played all the clones. So it's kind of like, why not? So I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see.
So that's interesting. It wouldn't surprise me at all if this ends up actually being true, even though it is rumored.
Right.
I will say this is coming from Kessel Run Transmissions, which they're right sometimes, but they're also kind of wrong at the same time.
Spotted history sometimes.
They have a source that they always claim is telling them these things, and their source seems to be like kind of accurate, but sometimes it gets it wrong. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So but jumping kind of on with that comes another part of this that is also a rumor coming from Kessel Run Transmissions. And that is that they think they understand who the villains are of Kenobi, or some of the villains. Of course, we have Darth Vader, but there's going to be some more villains here, and they're going to be kind of like Darth Vader's henchmen almost.
Yeah.
And it's a team of Jedi hunters that are looking for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Now, when I hear Jedi hunters, I think of the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
And the Inquisitors, of course, would be around at this time.
Right.
And so I think that would make a lot of sense to have some Inquisitors around, but they go on to say that it's not Inquisitors, it's actually a group of clone troopers, specialized clones that are hunting Obi-Wan with Vader, and that the leader of these clone troopers will be Commander Cody.
Yeah.
Now here's where it gets really interesting and could be potentially kind of crazy with everything that we've got coming up next, but they say that there's a good possibility this group of clone troopers is the Bad Batch.
Wow. Yeah,
which
that's interesting.
Would kind of tie into why we're getting this animated series.
Yeah. See, because I think when I saw the announcement for Bad Batch, I thought, okay, this is the Bad Batch's redemption story. Like, we have Fives, or was it Fives? I can't remember off the top of my head now. Season 7 of Clone Wars, I think it was Fives. Fives died. whoever the clone was that they saved. I don't remember.
I'm really bad with all the clones'
Yeah,
names, but is it Echo or
maybe Echo? I
honestly,
I'm pretty sure Five died to tell about the
Listen,
chip.
there's a lot of them.
There's quite a few of them. Anyway, whatever clone they saved. It's been a while since I've watched the Clone Wars series, but point is that they left with them, and it was kind of assumed that they didn't obey Order 66, and obviously we don't know that. But again, as we see in the sizzle, well, it wasn't the sizzle reel, but the actual trailer, it kind of assumed that they didn't as well. And so my thought was it was their redemption story. They fought the Empire, and they maybe had a valiant death, or maybe they go off somewhere in the galaxy and continue fighting as bounty hunters, or the unsung heroes that don't have a name type thing. I don't know, right? But it would be very interesting to have this animated show that has these characters have kind of a bad end, right? It would be very interesting for them to take that route where they end up basically turning bad or getting taken over their mind, get a new chip put in. I don't know, right? Convinced otherwise to go against their morals or whatever and fight the Jedi, and then end up fighting Kenobi. So I don't know. That would be a very, very interesting turn of events, to say the least. One, I'm not exactly against. I do think that could be very interesting. I don't know. What do you think, Andrew? I mean, would you want to see the Bad Batch coming up against Kenobi like that?
I think it could be very interesting because we're getting this series about them, and I'd say after a while, if we get a season or two of them, we're gonna start to care for these characters a little bit more. We're gonna learn more about them, and to see them all of a sudden end up being potentially these villains against Kenobi would make it a much more impactful, dramatic event, right? Like, if they're hunting down, like, even though, of course, we love Kenobi, it'd be very like, oh no, like, Kenobi's having to take down these guys that we've actually know a lot about and kind of grown to care about, you know? Yeah. Like, that'd be very interesting. And have Commander Cody be the leader of them. Like, all of that would be
really tie in, for sure. Now, here's something interesting to think about. If that is truly the case, the end of the Bad Batch series, we're going to end up probably seeing Kenobi in the Bad Batch series.
Maybe. It may lead right into them, not necessarily right into it, but it might hint at
But, it kind of shows Tatooine and maybe shows Obi-Wan.
But the thing that I don't... Here's the part where I'm having trouble believing this is really going to happen, because we have this Bad Batch. We assume the Bad Batch is not going to actually go along with the Empire, right? Like, they're going to...
That's the presumption.
The idea is they're probably going to be basically rebels. And kind of like, it looks like from the trailer they're kind of acting like they're part of it, right? But they're not. They're aware of what's going on, type deal.
Yeah.
That's the way it seems to me. So I have a hard time believing all of a sudden they're just gonna like team up with Vader, right? Like, unless they are like brainwashed. But even then, how can you have a whole series about them just being brainwashed?
What's the story there?
Right.
You know, what's the conflict? And I mean, I think the thing is that, looking at them, I feel like they don't have chips, right? I feel like that the implants, or whatever you want to call them, you know, they're a specialized unit that's kind of mutated some degree to have special abilities and stuff. They don't look exactly like clones, so I would imagine they don't even have chips. But if they do, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Unless maybe at the end of this series they get taken and do get chips put back in them, and they become kind of
possibly,
like, you know what I mean? And that
how are they going to end that though? That's going to be crazy to try to end a series like that.
That'd be a dark ending, and and this is an animated series, so
exactly.
So again, a lot of this doesn't. And another thing to point out, this Bad Batch series appears to start at least like right after Order 66, right? Like right after Clone Wars. Seems to be anyway. I mean, this is like the direct continuation of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Kenobi doesn't start for 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
So that's a big time span.
There's a time jump there, yeah.
And so, like, a lot of this doesn't really add up. So I'm not going to buy it right now.
Yeah.
I do think it's potential that there is some kind of, and maybe even a whole group of clones that do go after Kenobi.
Right.
A specialized
group.
The
501st.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the Bad Batch. I think that's the part that I'm having trouble believing right now.
Yeah, and again, I think that the clones are still possible, because we don't know canonically when the clones phased out anymore. So it's possible, especially the 501st, which is the Iron Fist of Vader. Vader. But yeah, I personally think that the Inquisitors, the Inquisitorius, is a lot more plausible.
Well, and let's just be honest, it's gonna be cooler. I mean, if you
sure,
if you have the Inquisitors, you got these
Sith-like beings,
Sith-like people with red lightsabers and stuff, right? Fighting, and get to see Kenobi fight.
An actual, real, good saber fight.
Have some lightsaber fights and stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to see that. That'd be
Naturally,
great.
Yeah.
And so I feel like for me, that's a little more appealing and just makes more sense. As Jedi hunters in this time, literally were the Inquisitors.
That's what they were. Yeah.
And so I think that just really would make a lot of sense. Yeah. Why would Vader send clones when he has the Inquisitors?
Exactly.
Which, granted, Palpatine kind of had say over the Inquisitors a lot as well, more so than Darth Vader. Darth Vader kind of was annoyed by the Inquisitors most of the time, but so maybe that might have something to do with it. Maybe Vader would rather send clones because he he has a bond with clones. Maybe he'd rather send them than he would send Inquisitors.
So I mean. It's
that's getting deep into
it. It's very deep into the lore.
We don't even know anything about this yet. So,
let's move on. But yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things. Obviously, as you can tell, we're very interested in what's going to happen to Kenobi.
As we said before, anytime we're talking Kenobi,
it's probably going to get off trail.
Prepare to sit there for a minute because we're going to be talking about it for a while.
Yeah. All right, so let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's move on. So the next thing, second to last rumor for this week is actually something we kind of already said. But as we know, back what was it, last week or whatever, we got the Investor Day, and one of the 100 shows that was announced was the Acolyte. And so the rumor, and this is something that we had actually already said.
Yeah, we talked about it last week a little bit.
Yeah, but the rumor is reportedly the Acolyte will premiere Darth Plagueis and a young Palpatine. Again, it fits, especially we were saying 150 years or whatever, so we said Plagueis, we didn't say Palpatine, but if it's 50 years, it's very plausible to have not just Plagueis but Palpatine as well. I mean, it's very, very plausible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's to some degree, part of me wants to say it's a stretch because those are such big iconic characters that people's been wanting for so long. I remember thinking Snoke at first was Plagueis whenever we watched Force Awakens and stuff like that. So I think there's so many people wanting it. So it's part of me wants to say it's a stretch, but at the same time, when you look at the timeline and they talk about it, there's big effects on the Force and things how they describe it. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, insider Daniel Rickman, which he has been right before on things, he had this intel to share, and he said the Acolyte will feature Darth Plagueis and his apprentice, the young Sheev Palpatine, and so we know that. Check this for me. Go on Wikipedia and look up Palpatine. But I believe Palpatine was born around 84 BBY. Yeah, I don't know if that may only be legends now. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, hold on. So pulling up Wikipedia. Let's make sure I'm on canon here. All right. Born 84 BBY.
Okay. So, if we look at it that way, and as we know now, the end of the High Republic is actually around 50 years before the Phantom Menace. So the Phantom Menace, so let's do the math there, which I'm horrible at math, but let's look at let me look at my timeline. For looking at the timeline, the Phantom Menace is 32 years before the Battle of Yavin. So if you do 32, and so he was born in, what did I say he was born in? 84?
84, yeah.
Okay. So I think it's possible.
So what did you say? What was prequel?
So the Phantom Menace is 32 years before. So 32 BBY.
So 84 minus 32.
Palpatine was born in
he would be 52 in he would be 52 in Phantom Menace. So I mean, if this is based 50 years before, it could be him Plagueis, mostly about Plagueis, but then finding Palpatine, or because here's the thing, they didn't say specifically 50 years before,
Right. It's around 50
it's
years.
around 50 years.
So it could, yeah, exactly.
He could be a child
exactly.
type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and we know this. We know the Acolyte is starting with this. It's dealing with like some shadowy stuff, some dark side stuff.
Right.
So I truly believe we're finally getting Darth Plagueis.
Oh, I hope so.
I think they have heard people say they want it for so long. I think we're finally getting Plagueis. I think we're going to get. I think we're going to start to see how he comes about with Palpatine. Maybe start to see some of Palpatine's origins. I think we're finally getting that, but I don't necessarily know that it's going to be the main story.
Yeah.
I think we're getting as we've heard many times, this centers around a female character,
right.
which again, when we looked up the word acolyte, right, it's like a servant to someone. So again, this very well may be a story about maybe a female character that is a servant to maybe Darth Plagueis.
Maybe it was like, we know that Sidious had tons of apprentices, whatever. So it could very well be that he had originally a female apprentice that Sidious kills later on or something. Who knows, right?
Who knows? Yeah. It could go a lot of different ways. But I think we're going to start to see this uprise of the dark side, how it comes to be, because of course, as the High Republic is the prime of the Jedi, it's when they're at their best,
right?
And of course, then the dark side starts to creep in and mess all that up, and I think we're going to see exactly how that comes about within this series, which is very, very exciting to me.
That's very exciting.
And of course, I could be wrong; it could go a whole different way. But just based off of the information we're gathering so far, that seems to be the direction it's headed. And I think that would be fabulous.
I agree.
I would love to get that story, get the story of Plagueis, and eventually maybe even get to see where Palpatine eventually, kills Plagueis and then he becomes the Sith Lord. And so very exciting stuff.
I'd be very happy to get it.
Yeah. And,
sure.
And only time will tell. Maybe all of that is just crazy speculation,
right.
And it's very, very good chance that it is.
It's very possible it's true.
But I hope it's not. I hope I'm onto something there.
Yeah.
So, but moving on to our last rumor, Matt Martin, who is of course with the Story Group. He's the manager of digital content, and he's always talking about Star Wars stuff on Twitter. Someone tweeted him and asked, should I be excited for the future of Star Wars games, considering EA closed the doors on Battlefront 2 back in April?
Yeah.
And Matt Martin responded with, I haven't been this excited for the future of Star Wars gaming in a long time. That's about all I can say, unfortunately.
We have not one, not two, but three mobile games coming.
I trust Matt Martin.
Oh, yeah.
I think he does understand what the fans want. He's a big fan himself, and he's a huge fan of things such as Knights of the Old Republic and things of that nature. So, so him saying that he's never been more, or he hasn't been this excited in a long time, does give me hope.
Right.
I think we of course are getting another Jedi Fallen Order.
Sure.
They're probably pretty deep into it at this point.
I would imagine so.
I'd say we'll get that within the next 2 years, probably, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And I still hope that there's some kind of Knights of the Old Republic, something in the works. Very possible we'll get a High Republic type scenario. I think there's still a lot of room to play in Star Wars, and I think that they know that, and they know people want it. And so I think they are going to continue to try to get some good games out there. I mean, it's time, right?
Right.
We got Disney Plus killing it for Star Wars now. We of course we have tons of novels, tons of comics. Now we even have like 3 VR games. Or actually, sorry, 2 VR games.
2 right now. Yeah.
But give us some good Star Wars video games.
Some good in-depth stories that we can play. I mean, and again, honestly, I really enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order.
And they know we want a deep Star Wars RPG. They know that. We've been saying it. We've been saying it for years. And so I hope that something is in the works for that. As we know, we have these next gen consoles, and now would be a perfect time to just
precisely
to bring us a big Star Wars RPG that just takes it to the next level. So.
I want it. I need it.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
But only time will tell. Until then, let's go ahead and move into our releases. Now, as you guys know, we're headed right into the Christmas season, into the Christmas week. And so not a lot of stuff coming on through Christmas here. But, of course, we have our final Mando Monday is on the 21st. Should be our final one.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for that, because I think we're going to get some really cool stuff out of that. I'm excited to check out what they have.
Oh, yeah.
I might even buy some stuff. We'll see. I said that about other episodes. I never have, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then no comics or anything like that coming out. But on the 25th, as we said earlier, we will be getting that special making of season 2 of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, so you'll want to check that out as soon as you can. And then, of course, as we said earlier, we're going to be taking a 2-week break. We'll come back on January 9th. So I do just want to, I'm not going to update you on everything that's releasing through that time, but I do want to remind you that January 5th is when we will be getting Light of the Jedi, which is that first High Republic adult novel, as well as we'll be getting the middle grade novel released that same day. And then we'll be getting the High Republic young adult Claudia Gray novel in February. So it's coming a little bit later.
Yeah.
But just to remind you guys that those are coming very soon. And by the time you hear us next, those will already be out. Hopefully we'll have dived into a couple chapters at least and be able to give like a little first impression on kind of where we think it's headed and what we think of it so far.
Absolutely.
But of course, exciting times ahead.
Oh, yeah.
But that's all
Very
for
exciting.
Releases.
Yeah, so let us go ahead and jump directly into our Q&A. So for this week's Q&A, we're honestly doing some kind of catch-up, sweep-up here. We had a couple weeks where we had some scattered questions here and there because we do something odd. We'd ask new questions. We had last week questions specifically for the Inspector Day. Wow. Investor Day.
Say Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, honestly, that's the first thing that came to mind. I don't know why. Anyway, so we're kind of playing catch up. So if there's any questions that you feel like you've asked in the past couple of weeks that hasn't been answered, today is that day. So we have 3 of them today. So if I missed anything, apologize. Please bring it to my attention. We'll get to you next week. But I believe we caught all 3 of them that were kind of left over. So this week's first question comes from David Gill, who says, in Rebels, Kanan meets a giant being who calls himself the Bendu, and he says that neither Jedi nor he's Jedi. Wow, having a stroke. He's neither Jedi nor Sith, but he is still a Force wielder. Can you tell us more about that and any other times those beings are mentioned? So, first and foremost, I wanted to read the definition of Bendu from Wikipedia. Because I'll just say off the top of my head, I don't believe that there's any more of his species, right? I don't think we even know what his species are. I don't know that there's really any other, how do I say this, beings like him. I could be wrong.
He's the only one we know of.
Yes,
right?
So on here it says Bendu is a force-sensitive entity who resided in the remote planet of Altalon and claimed to represent the center of the Force, between the light and dark side. And a quote from him that says, "Jedi and Sith wield the Ashla and the Bogon, the light and the dark. I am the one in the middle, the Bendu." So, I'll just say this first and foremost, right? Obviously, we know the Force is the Force, and how we utilize the Force is what makes us a light side and dark side. Now, I do think from our previous studies and things of canon that the Force tends to lean towards the light, and that's why when the Force is unbalanced, that's when the dark side comes. So,
right.
It doesn't matter how many Sith there is versus Jedi. If there are Sith, typically it's unbalanced. So anyway, point is that there are beings like him that kind of don't really tend towards the light side or tend towards the dark side. They're in the middle.
Yeah, I think the thing to take from this though is, and just like Wikipedia says there, is he claims to be, and
right.
I feel iffy about the Bendu character and his motives.
Yeah,
and as we know, he refuses to take sides to the point to where when Kanan basically reprimands him for it, then he just unleashes a huge storm, and he gets mad and unleashes this huge storm on all of them. Right. And it's like,
I think it can be a little selfish. You know what I'm saying? So I do think it's like more self-centered, and and I think that's the problem, is that like whenever you call yourself someone in the middle, a lot of times if you don't hold the light, you'll end up going to the darkness.
That's very true. And honestly, that just seemed kind of a little bit of a dark side move to me.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So let me say this real quick though. So you're talking about, is there any other like beings like this? So I don't know of anything personally that's like him, but there are other beings, so to speak, as we see in the Clone Wars, the Mortis trilogy. There's the father, the brother, and the sister, and these are, I don't even know what to call them, like demigods or something. I don't know, but they are representations of the Force itself. The father is supposed to be in the middle, kind of balancing the light and the dark. The sister's light, the brother's dark, and the father is balancing them too. So we know that there are other beings out there that kind of represent the Force or made up of the Force. So the Bendu, I don't even know necessarily if he's even on the same level as the the brother, sister, and father. So that's definitely something to look into. Now, so here, I was going to look up this too, though. There's also, there's clans of people, right, throughout Star Wars, such as the Neti, the Anzat, the Koronai, which is a human tribe, the Vala, the Red Sith, the actual species Red Sith, the Miraluka, and there are other force sensitive species who
legends now. But.
A lot of them are legends, but for the most part, there are some species of people or out there that are naturally force sensitive. So I'm just saying that there's probably so many people out there that are force sensitive that never got picked up by a Sith or a Jedi, right? And just kind of operated in the Force neutrally. Now, I will say this, and this is also Legends, but in the Old Republic game, there was that tribe of people. I don't even know what they're even called off the top of my head because I never played it, but they were like the really cool like commercials that you see. It has them and they're like, they're not really light side, they're not really dark side, but they fight with lightsabers and they have the Force, stuff like that.
The Knights of the Eternal Throne. Or
okay, yeah. So I mean, the point is that I don't know as much about Bendu other than like the brother, mother, sister, father, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what we do know is they're all considered these ancient beings from a time past, right? And so of course the Force works in very mysterious ways. So we don't really understand all of that, but I think that's I just think that he's maybe not as good of a character as he claims himself to be.
Right. Yeah.
And like I'm pretty sure he even talks about like destroying the Jedi, like something like that. He says something like that.
It's been so long since I've watched.
So
that.
Like I tend to think maybe he's not. He's maybe more of a dark side type being than he initially claims. Yeah. But yeah, either way, he's some kind of force sensitive being of some type. So, but we might hear more about him at some point in the future if we do end up dealing more with Ahsoka and Thrawn and Ezra, and because he was kind of connected into all of that towards the end.
And then plus the sister is heavily connected to Ahsoka.
Yeah. So we might see some more of that in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just to summarize, to answer your question. No, there's really not any other ones other than some of these other ancient creatures like the sister and brother and father that really are like him. So maybe we'll see more. All right, so good question. Our second question comes from Philip Mahurin, and he asked this. He says, where did Moff Gideon come from? Is he mentioned in any of the other Star Wars stories? Thanks, and you're welcome. Anyway, so basically no. And like I said, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Moff Gideon was not mentioned in anything. That the first time we ever see him is in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, Moff Gideon is a completely new character that was created for The Mandalorian. We have not heard or seen of him before that. And I remember when they did show him and stuff, we were I remember you and me both were like, should we know this?
Yes,
should we know him? Have we heard of him before? No. There's nothing. I think there's a good chance in the future we'll start to see him
probably in some
other things,
yeah,
where maybe he in the past, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as of right now, the Mandalorian is the only thing he's been a part of.
Right, and I will say that, he is Moff Gideon, right? And so in looking back to the original trilogy and stuff, we see Grand Moff Tarkin. So obviously we see that there's one Grand Moff, but there's several other Moffs under the Grand Moff, because that was just a rank, right? So I'm assuming he was just kind of one of the random Moffs that was in the Empire, and then when the Empire fell, he just kind of happened to be one of the last ones. And so because he was already in this big leadership role, he just kind of stood up and became, the leader. Now, I do find it interesting that we didn't get more backstory as to how he got the Darksaber and things of that nature. Maybe in the future, I don't know. But the point is that as far as we know, right now, there's no backstory to him up to the point of the Mandalorian, and he's just one of the Moffs that kind of just stepped up and took over from there and tried to raise up his own faction of the Empire.
And as we know, all the Grand Moffs are trouble. So
right, they're all trouble. So he was always going to be.
If they're
bad.
known as a Grand Moff, then you know they're going to be a problem.
Right.
Or probably that goes for probably all the Moffs, but
yeah, exactly.
Especially the Grand Moffs.
Right. So our great question, Philip. Our third and final question comes from Miss Ava Patton. Ava, thanks for asking a question again. And she says, how could all the Jedi not sense Palpatine was strong in the Force? So that's a very good question, because a lot of people probably don't know that. And there's kind of a long and a short answer to that. And I'll just give the short answer. And if Drew, you want to elaborate on this, you can. Essentially, you can disconnect from the Force, right? We see a lot of different times throughout Star Wars is that you can disconnect from the Force, like we see in recently with Grogu, right? Grogu disconnected from the Force. We see in Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis disconnected from the Force. There's several different instances where people can disconnect themselves from the Force on accident, on purpose, right? Obviously, we know that Palpatine was very masterful in the Force, very masterful in conniving and things of that nature. So he had masked his Force and suppressed it in the times that he was, as a Senate leader and as the Chancellor, so that he could infiltrate the ranks of the Republic and rise up to take over. So I think that's the short answer, that he did it on purpose. He suppressed his Force. But Drew, do you have any more to elaborate on that?
I mean, that's the basics of it. Yeah. I mean, like he was knowledgeable enough and skilled enough to be able to turn it on and off whenever he wanted, which was not an easy thing to do for most.
No.
It was more of like, if you turned it off, it was probably off, for a good while. It's hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to just control it like that whenever you wanted. And so basically that, but also, going just a little deeper, the Jedi were deceived at that point. They were blind to what was going on. They weren't even really searching for it. They weren't aware. And also they talk about the Sith shrine that was under the temple.
Well. Yeah.
That also played a role in it. It talks about how that kind of helped the dark side. From that kind of helped to just completely make them all oblivious to what was happening, and so all of that plays in together with it. But basically, in the end, it comes down to basically Palpatine's mastery of the Force and that dark side alchemy, I guess, that goes along with it. So.
Yeah. Palpatine was a pretty crazy cat. He can do a lot of things that most people probably couldn't do. So that's the long and short of it. I do think that he was utilizing that Sith shrine to manipulate the Force in that area too.
And you have to think, like, it's truly a masterful plan when you think about Palpatine and how far back he truly started to plan these things.
Oh yeah,
and that's why they were deceived, and that's why I'm excited about the potential for the Acolyte series, because we could start to already see the beginnings of their plan, beginnings of how they plan to deceive the Jedi. And I think there's just so much story that could still be told about that. So
I 100% agree. So Ava, we appreciate your question, and to Philip and David and all of you that asked questions,
thank you.
Very much appreciate it. We continue to just thrive off of this.
I love the questions. I love
so
it.
Fun.
It's my favorite
so
part
fun.
to hear what questions you guys have.
And,
keep them coming.
Yeah, Philip, I cut it off, but Philip says, I'm sorry if this is a dumb question. No, Philip, it's not a dumb question. It's not a dumb question because...
I thought he had another one and you did cut it off. So I thought
yeah,
that's what
Philip,
you were saying.
Honestly, there was one question you asked. It was so dumb I didn't want to... No, that's my whole point.
Okay.
He said, I'm sorry if this is a dumb question, but who is Moff Gideon?
No dumb questions.
No dumb questions.
We do this podcast for all lovers of Star Wars, all
new or old.
New or old, all levels of knowledge of Star Wars.
Yeah.
We want to answer a question for someone that's just getting into Star Wars.
Yeah.
And we hope to be able to answer questions for those that know a lot about Star Wars, and hopefully we can give you a little more feedback.
Not everybody's weirdo nerds like us who know everything about Star Wars. And there's people who know more than us, obviously.
I'm sure some of these people could be telling us a thing or two. But,
right, exactly.
But
like I said, all questions are welcome.
Yeah.
We love to answer them. Ask away, everybody.
For sure.
All right. So, last but not least,
oh man,
we're going to get in to the meat, baby, and that is the Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 16 finale.
Yes.
So, standard procedures. We will talk about our generic overall impressions, non-spoilers, what we thought about it, how we liked it, and then we'll get to spoilers and talk about everything, all the delicious goodies that came into this buffet of an episode. So let's get into non-spoiler first. Drew, I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
Chapter 16, The Rescue.
Yes.
This episode literally made me feel like a child again.
Giddy like a schoolgirl. That's what we say.
It's just the magic of Star Wars, the magic of nostalgia. This is something that you and I have literally grown up with, and not just grown up with, but together have grown up with it. Literally, since we were small children, we have been playing Star Wars together, watching Star Wars together. It was a magical moment today to be able to do that again. And when you watch this episode, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But something about it was unforgettable. I will never forget that moment that we experienced today in this episode. But just talking about the episode, it's well done. The director is Peyton Reed on this, which directed the second episode of this season. And which is I believe both of our least favorite of the season, but none of them are bad.
Right. Yeah, it's not a bad episode.
It just wasn't.
But when you have like level 10 tier things over and over and over, and there's one that comes with like an 8.5, right. It has to be the least favorite, right? By
man,
default.
he hits hard on this one, and and it's just. Basically what I would say about this episode is it just escalates. It's escalating.
The entire time.
The entire time it's building, and you can feel the tension building.
Yeah,
you can feel
tension. Yeah,
you can feel it build until it finally just blows.
Right,
and it's insane and outstanding music in this episode.
Yes. Big hand to clap to Ludwig Göransson.
And we'll talk a little bit more about what we liked about that once we get into spoilers. But the music is well done. I think the writing, the camera work, everything is just top notch on this episode. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. I think one of the biggest things that I'll say as well is that it perfectly ties in so many elements of new and old. Happiness, sadness. There's just so much there, and I think that the tension, and because here's the thing, you can have good tension, right? There's not always bad tension. There's good tension that things are building up, and you can tell that it's good, and it's going to be exciting, it's going to be fun and awesome, and that tension is building up. But there's also tension that built up. It's like, oh, this is scary, this is bad, what's going to happen? And there's all this just like animosity, and when it finally happened, you're like. Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, it's insane. And I remember, I'm not gonna tell, but one of us was crying, and the other one was like sitting there with her mouth agape, like not knowing what to feel or to do. I think we were both just like clutching our chests, just like I don't even know what to say. Like it was just insane. It was insane. Yeah. So overall, phenomenal episode. I do think that the directing was really good. Again, Peyton Reed did very well. Again, I didn't love episode 2 just because I'm like, there could have been so much more happening. But I thought the direction on that was good, and just the angles and the style direction that they took for this episode was just great. And I'm done talking about non-spoilers.
All right, let's go into spoilers.
So, warning, Mandalorian season 2, chapter 16. Spoiler review.
Yes.
Breakdown.
Starting
whatever.
right now.
Anyways. So, first of all, dude, I just got to say it again. Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
This episode is insane.
Yeah.
They call it The Rescue. I think we kind of already knew what that was entailing. I mean, we knew they're going to get Grogu back, right? Baby Yoda's back.
Right.
But, man, the stuff that came in this episode, Mace Windu... No, I'm just kidding. So let's go through a quick little breakdown of what happened.
I loved the scene with Mace Windu, Cal Kestis, and Ezra Bridger. All three.
They're all like giving each other high fives and chest bumps.
Yeah.
And they killed everybody, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And then they took this image of Luke Skywalker and just burned like an effigy, Screw you.
We're the cool Jedi.
We're the cool Jedi. It's me and Cal Kestis.
Okay.
Anyway, no, we really do love Cal Kestis, but anyway, we'll get to why we're talking like that. Anyway, so let's just go over a little overview, and as we're talking, we can talk about things that we thought and saw and mentioned, blah, blah. So, the opening scene, we have Slave One, and it is chasing after an Imperial shuttle, and they're going through space, and of course... as it kind of flashbacks back and forth, I love the very ominous feel it gives, like where Slave One is like the shark, that's hunting its prey, And inside the shuttle was Dr. Pershing, which was the clone scientist that we've seen several different times. It's trying to utilize.
This is the first episode that they actually called him the clone something or other. I don't remember the exact wording of it, but
basically clone scientist, clone researcher.
There was something,
thing.
but they finally officially confirmed that, even though we already knew. But
we already kind of assumed, especially with that episode with all the test tubes and stuff. But he was actually
and the
confirmed.
Camino emblem on his.
Well, that too, of course, yeah. But they officially confirmed that he was trying to clone.
Yeah.
So they're trying to capture obviously Dr. Pershing because they think that he may have Baby Yoda, or possibly can at least lead him to Baby Yoda. So. They go around, they're fighting, a really awesome moment, and of course they stop them, and they're like, all right, prepare to board. And like I said, that whole shark scene where like the Slave One like crawls, like floats over the bay window of the shuttle, and the sound effects is like, and it's just like,
right.
It was just, it's so good.
One thing that I loved about this episode is we get some like actual space battles, like a Star Wars movie type space battle where you are in black space and you're flying around and they had the X-wings, or not X-wings, the TIE fighters chasing after them, and so
so good.
It was cool to see.
It was. So long story short, so they attach and they get inside the hull of the shuttle. And basically, like, Dr. Pershing, where's the kid at? And immediately, before he starts to talk, one of the pilots, who we assumed was just a pilot, right, immediately grabs Dr. Pershing, holds a gun to his head, or a blaster to his head, and you can tell he's actually like a kind of a secret operative agent for Moff Gideon. And the other pilot's like, hey, I'll cooperate, and all of a sudden, boom, the other pilot blasts him away. And there's this really crazy conversation ensues, basically between.
He says he's on the Death Star. Yeah, well,
Cara Dune says that was talking to him. That's what I'm saying. Like basically, Cara Dune's talking to the pilot, right?
Yeah.
And so didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure everybody knows like what's going on. But basically saying like, oh, I see you're from Alderaan. And he's like, "How's Alderaan doing?" Basically, and she's like, "Well, because I was on the Death Star when that happened." He's like, "She's like, which one?"
Yeah, like that.
And he got like
she's
super
like,
mad,
one?
and he's like, and he's like, millions of people died both of those days, and people across the galaxy cheered. Alderaan was a sacrifice we needed to take to stop terrorism. And right when he says that, she gets like super mad, and dude just blast this dude in the face.
Right in the face.
Right in the face.
Just right in the face.
And Dr. Pershing just standing there like, I'll come with you. So as we go, of course, Dr. Pershing, gets in there and they kind of catch him up. Okay, Grogu is on Moff Gideon's cruiser, and he kind of helps them to strategize and things of that nature. And so now all of a sudden, they realize, okay, we know where Baby Yoda's at, we know where Moff Gideon's at, but now we need to get a little bit of help. So now they go to some planet, I can't remember which one it was, and they kind of get into this saloon, and all of a sudden they see Bo-Katan and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Cara Reeves or something like that, or something Reeves, I want to say.
Cosca Reeves.
Cosca Reeves. That was close. Anyway, and basically,
yeah. Interestingly, the other guy's just not there.
Yeah,
he's just
Axe
gone.
Wolf or
Axel or Axe, or I don't remember.
I think it's Axe something. Anyway, yeah, he's just not there, which I thought that was odd.
Yeah, just completely not a part.
Gone.
They never said anything about him.
Never mentioned him. Yeah, that's bizarre. So anyway. Essentially, sorry about that. Anyway, I had this like vibration on the microphone. Like, what is that? Anyway, that's my phone going off. So, basically, they get in the saloon and they're talking and they're like, hey, we need you to come help us. We're gonna need to go get Baby Yoda back. And Drew and I was talking, but it's always so funny. No, I ain't gonna help you. No, I'm not getting dragged to have the kid. What?
Yeah, literally, everyone has turned him down until he says they have the kid, and then they're like, well, why didn't you start off with that?
Every time. Yeah, why'd you waste my time?
Yeah,
could have told me earlier. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Just another instance of that. But as he's saying that, and they're kind of like starting to agree, all of a sudden Boba Fett walks up behind him, just kind of like standing there, and all of a sudden Bo-Katan and both Cosca Reeves are like, hey, like, what are you doing here? You're not a Mandalorian, you're an imposter. And it was really cool because Bo-Katan starts referencing the Clone Wars, because she's like, I've heard your voice a million times before, and I know who you are. And basically he's like, my father gave me this armor. He's like, no, your donor gave you this armor.
Right.
Oh, dude, that was insane. Cool. But eventually it kind of led up to the point where they're getting so angry.
Yeah, which it's interesting that she was being that way after she had told Din Djarin in the third episode. That that was those thoughts of you're only a Mandalorian if you keep this creed and all this stuff was the wrong way of thinking. And so it's funny though that all of a sudden she's kind of being that way towards Boba here. So.
Yeah. And like I said, it escalates to the point where Cosca even jumps up and like they start like fighting together. And I admit I was a little disappointed that they obviously Boba held his own and he did really good, but like there's a couple times that she kneed him in the gut and flipped over and stuff like that, and did some things that kind of made it look a little dumb. But I'm like, really?
I wasn't a big fan of that moment where we've seen Boba Fett like wrecking house, right? Like just going crazy on everybody, and all of a sudden he just like randomly gets like taken out by this character who we don't even really know. I thought that was a little weird and made Boba Fett kind of look like a loser in that moment. But
I think the purpose was that they were trying to show that she's powerful and she's good and that she's out of training. But I think all it did is just make Boba Fett look bad.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but whatever, right? So eventually they're like, okay, he has the kid. Let's just get over our differences and let's go, right? So they leave. So they're all kind of together and the band's back together. I figured we would have had a few more people than this. But they obviously didn't need anybody after we watched the episode. But I thought, he's going to get... Initially, I thought he was going to get Ahsoka. I thought he was going to have Mayfield and all of them together and stuff. But, thought that was interesting that we didn't have those guys. So anyway, so they all get together and then they're planning to attack the ship. Was pretty cool. They took that shuttle, Imperial shuttle. It's going to come out of hyperspace. And Slave One was going to be right behind them, acting as if they were a distressed shuttle trying to get back into the cruiser. And so this was the big, good space battle, that part of the space battle that we see. All of a sudden, they're like, whoa, you can tell that Moff Gideon's pretty wary. Like, I feel like this is, especially after this hologram I just saw, I don't think I trust anybody. So they send out a bunch of TIE fighters to intercept and attack Slave One. And it was beautiful. First of all, just that scene was so good. And seeing that first TIE fighter come out of the launching tube or launching bay was so cool. It was just clean. It just looks so awesome. And And long story short, they do their battle for a little bit, and the shuttle, which is them, they just keep coming. They're like, you don't have clearance. Wait, clear the shuttle tube, and so they just come crashing into the bay.
Yeah.
And very cool. The shuttle opens up, the lights are flickering, the shuttle opens and tons of smoke pours out, and Drew, you immediately said what was you're saying what?
Yeah, I said it reminded me of Darth Vader, like coming, and I think it was intentional. It kind of had that same,
especially later on we kind of find it similarity.
But it was very reminiscent of I'm thinking Empire maybe, where he comes out of a ship just like that, and it kind of has that same kind of look.
It's so good. It was so good. And they came out and they're just blasting, of course, So they're fighting their way through, and oddly enough, this is something that you and I talked about. Oddly enough, Boba just light speeds away, right? And
I don't know if I missed something. If he was supposed to specifically be doing something after that, I don't know if he's just kind of hanging out in space waiting till they're done, and he's like the guy that's going to hurry and pick him up. Maybe that's their plan.
Perhaps, yeah.
So he's kind of just waiting around. But Boba Fett's gone, right? Gone, the rest of the episode.
It was very bizarre.
So that was really weird. That he's just not there anymore.
Yeah,
and you don't hear anything from him.
If you watch the end of the episode, you're like, oh, I know why. But here's the thing: Finnick was not with him. Finnick was with everybody else. So
that's later. Obviously, it's later. So
that's my point. People can say well, that's where he went. Well, no, not yet.
Right. So
where he went,
for whatever reason, they chose for him just to not be involved in those scenes, which was an interesting choice. But
it was bizarre. But whatever. Probably setting up for something in the future. Who knows? Wink, wink. Anyway, this is spoiler for you, right? Anyway, so they're fighting their way through the ship, and they're kicking butt, obviously. Some very cool scenes, and then but more importantly, in terms of the story, Mando gets kind of separated off, and he's trying to go take care of the dark troopers so that they don't have to fight them. The idea was that he would shut the bay door and jettison them into space. So basically they're getting activated, and this whole sequence is super cool to see them booting up. And of course, Drew and I kind of thought it was hilarious that, their booting up sequence is almost like dubstep music in the background.
While they're booting up, it's clearly music, but it's like a dubstep type deal.
It's rhythmic sounds.
I
and
loved
beats.
it. I thought it was so cool. And they keep doing it, and it gets bigger and bigger. And again, just like everything else, it's building the anticipation and building up to this. And it was really cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. You can basically, it's building up to the point where they're almost ready. They're almost there. Is Mando going to make it in time? And so finally he gets there, and he slams the door shut with the button. But right as it slams, one of the hands gets through.
Yeah.
And
at this point, you'll also notice that he does have the Beskar spear on his back. He's been carrying that around.
Yeah.
So that's something to know.
Yeah, because he knew. At first, I'm like, why? It's kind of convenient that he has that. But I realize now that they realize that's the only way he can fight the Darksaber is with the Beskar spear. So
yeah, I would say he had already thought about that.
Yeah, that was kind of the intention. Yeah. So anyway, so one of the Dark Trooper gets out of their bay before the doors close. So basically, he's trying to, Mando's trying to jettison them all out, but he's just getting just absolutely pounded.
Well, yeah, because as he's trying the doors closing or whatever, but he punches and he just slams against the wall.
He flies 10 feet.
And then it picks him up, and he's just punching Mando in the face,
beating his head into the wall. Literally, just head is going further into the wall. Luckily, he has Beskar armor.
Which as you can tell, that stuff holds up.
Yeah, pretty well, pretty well. So it's just hilarious. He's like bam, 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 bam. His head just going further into the wall. So obviously, he tries to shoot him, and I was under the presumption at first that they were made of Beskar, because that's something I thought, oh man, that's gonna be crazy if they're made of that.
I think a lot of people speculated that he probably made them out of Beskar.
But he made them out of something, right? Because they're not Beskar, and we'll know why in a little bit, but they do deflect blaster bolts. So I'm thinking that maybe they're made of Durasteel, and that's always a possibility. I don't know. They're able to deflect, I'll just say this, they're able to deflect blaster bullets, but they're not able to deflect lightsabers. So, anyway. So, long story short, he finally, gets away from it a little bit, uses the Beskar spear to destroy it, and stabs it in the neck, basically, and rips his head off, whatever. So as they're about to break through the glass on the door, he hits the button, and they get jettisoned out into space. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a complete waste of 40 Dark Troopers that's been building up to, so, whatever. So at that time, as he's about to turn around, all of a sudden, or no, I'm sorry, that's not true. So he goes down, he's trying to find Grogu, and he gets to a holding cell where he believes he's at, and he opens up, and as soon as he opens up, you see Grogu just sitting on his little bench with his little baby Imperial handcuffs on. And then we have Moff Gideon standing over him with the Darksaber ignited right above his head. And it's basically like, if you take another step, this baby's getting sliced and diced, baby. Some green eggs and ham. And long story short, he's saying, all I want is the kid. Just give me the kid, I'll leave. This is what Mando's saying. And Moff Gideon's like, oh, it's like, well, this is the Darksaber, and this is he's like, I don't care. Like, you literally can keep the Darksaber, you can keep your ship, you can keep your life. I don't care. All I want is the kid. And Moff is like, okay. It's like, well, you know what? I've got what I needed from him. I've studied his blood. I've got what I needed. As long as you leave the ship immediately, I'll let you have him. And he's like, okay. And he was literally willing to give up on everything just to get the kid back. So as he walks up to baby Yoda to grab him and pick him up and leave, all of a sudden he reignites the Darksaber and just absolutely just starts pummeling Mando. And obviously, luckily, he has Beskar on, so it's kind of bouncing and deflecting off. But I mean, he's just bam, 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 just knocking him over and knocking him back and stuff, which was really cool to see. But what's interesting is that he gets knocked down, but I mean, clearly Moff Gideon has some skill with this, obviously.
Yeah. How?
I don't really know. I don't think they had lightsabers training in the Imperial Academy that I know of, but
they may have had some kind of sword training, vibroblade training, or something.
Maybe because as we see, and this is much later, but as we see in
the First Order,
the First Order, some of those crazy weirdo stormtroopers look like absolutely just like massacre Finn with like this light baton thing. Like, I don't know. So somebody has some
sequel trilogy, gotta love it.
You gotta love it. Anyway, so anyway, he finally gets his bearings, and he's like, blocking with his gauntlets and stuff, and he pulls out the Beskar spear.
Yeah,
and they're fighting something that's very interesting. That Drew mentioned. Go ahead, because you had mentioned this to me. Whenever they're fighting and they're clashing together.
Oh yeah. You can see where it's like heating up on the spear to the point where sometimes it looks like almost like if they were to continue, it would melt.
Yeah.
So maybe the what's it called? Wow, I just lost the word for the name of the armor. What's the name of the material that's used there? Beskar, thank you. It just like completely went away from my mind there for a second. But maybe Beskar does have a melting point when it comes to like a lightsaber. Like, right? Eventually, maybe if they were to continue to hold it there, it eventually would, right?
Yeah, because we know it has to, because if you remember the armor, he had that bubbling cauldron.
Well, true.
So
true.
Like, what the heck is the fire that the armor is using if it's not lightsaber? You know what I'm saying? So we know it has to melt at some heat point,
But clearly when they're fighting and they're holding those positions, I think eventually it was gonna mess it up. I wondered actually if it was going to
cut it in half or something,
but it never did.
Never did. Came close, never did.
So anyway, it was a cool fight scene.
Very cool fight scene. Obviously ends up like doing some really cool stuff with the spear and kind of swings it out and disarms him, knocks the Darksaber out across the hallway and holds him there, and he yields. And so at that point, Din does not realize the significance of him submitting to him, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing we have is them coming to the hull of the ship where everybody else is at, like, hey, where's Moff Gideon, blah, blah, blah. We see, first of all, a very awesome image. We see Mando coming with the ignited Darksaber and Baby Yoda on his other hand. So
Grogu
awesome.
in one hand and the Darksaber in the other. Pretty great. Yeah.
So good.
He's so cool.
So cool. Such a beast. Anyway, so they come into the room and basically like immediately Bo-Katan turns around and sees it and like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No. And he's like, what? Like he doesn't understand, And so we get this whole monologue, which is a very cool way to give lore, first of all, for those who wasn't
which
into it.
You can tell Gideon's just Gideon thinks he's got it where he won some, basically.
Gideon is all giddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, No, he's excited. He's just like, if I'm going to be defeated, at least Bo-Katan didn't get the saber back.
I think Gideon thinks he can get Bo-Katan to take out Mando.
Well, that too.
And I think that's what he was really hoping was going to happen.
Well, and as we see, he goes through the whole thing, and those of you who already know this, right? But as we can see, those who wield the Darksaber, who can become the Mandalore, right? The leader of all the Mandalorians. But it has to be gained through single combat, essentially.
Yeah.
He has to defeat the one holding the Darksaber and then take that from them. They're yielded, they're dead, whatever.
Right.
And that's how you get the power.
Right.
So, Mando's just trying to hand it back to her. He's like, well, here, just take it. I don't want it. I just want the kid. I'm good. And she's like, no, I can't take it. He's like, okay, well, fine then. All right, let's fight. I yield. He's like, it's not how it works,
And then Gideon's like talking in their ear, and you can see it on her face that she's highly contemplating.
Well, if you go back to the scene, her eyes never break with Mando.
She's really thinking like, I might have to do this so I can become the leader.
Yeah.
Which shows that maybe she's a little too obsessed with the idea of getting the Darksaber.
Yeah, because she's like, her initial thing is like, I don't care who leads, I just want Mandalore to be united again. It's like, but is that the case? Is that really the case? Because it sounds like she's very interested in being the leader
she wants
herself.
to be the leader.
Yeah.
I still believe that we might be heading towards a ending for Mando being the leader of Mandalorians on Mandalore.
As it sits right now, he technically is right now.
Yeah, but
Mandalore is not.
But he doesn't want it right now. He doesn't care at all. But I think there could be at some point in the future, point where he does care,
right?
And to be that leader, recognizes that leader. I like how Christian Harloff put it. He's kind of like Aragorn in that sense of where
right.
he ends up basically filling the burden and becoming the leader that they needed, even despite the fact that he didn't really ever plan on it.
Exactly. And through that, he's going to be able to unite all of the Mandalorian clans, whether you're a foundling, whether you're a true blood, whether you're a Death Watch,
right, exactly.
Yeah, so very cool scene on that
and
part.
He'll have the Darksaber as his main weapon, and that'd just be cool.
That's just going to be sick. Anyways, decked out in full Beskar and have a Darksaber. I mean, you can't get much better than that.
Right.
So, at this point, of course, all of those jettisoned, you knew it had to come back, right? All those jettisoned dark troopers end up infiltrating back into the ship.
Real quick, I do want to mention just a little lore thing for you, but if I understand correctly, if going off of those rules for the Darksaber, that would mean that Palpatine would actually be the official owner of that Darksaber. If you go by the fair rules.
Yeah.
Because Darth Maul gets it from Pre Vizsla.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that right? Pre Vizsla?
Yeah.
And then Palpatine gets it. And then
because
from
he defeats
there,
him and takes it,
later on in Rebels or whatever, they get, I don't even remember how they get it from there at that point.
Remember.
But I'm pretty sure Palpatine would be the next rightful owner of that. So that's just an
that's the thing, though. I mean,
because
here's the thing. Like at that point, though, it's just an interesting topic. I'm trying how to say it. Because at the end of the day, someone had it who took it from Bo-Katan. However, that ended up happening, which is interesting that we never figure out how that happened, right?
Yeah, I think for some reason they're holding that back.
Yeah,
I'll know exactly what happens. I think we're still going to get that story, but clearly, of course, not this season. But
maybe it's an Ahsoka story.
I don't know exactly when we're going to get it, but I think there is more to it, and they're just not revealing all their cards yet. And I wonder if I'm kind of wondering if there's some darker sides to Bo-Katan that we've yet to unfold here, especially with her reaction at the end. And
we know that she was never the best person,
and we know that she took she took the Darksaber willingly back in Rebels from Sabine. She just took it. There was no battle, anything.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that now she's not willing to take it that way.
Right.
And it makes you wonder if maybe they never took her seriously or something.
Right. She kind of learned the lesson,
because she technically won it inappropriately or whatever.
And because of that, she could never really reunite all the Mandalorians because of that.
Right. And that's just an idea. We don't really know.
That's kind of speculation.
Yeah, but
So anyway, very interesting. Blah blah blah. So all those Dark Troopers come back, and we think it's they're coming. They drop the blast shield, the blast doors, or whatever, to the hull of the ship, and and they're just like got the two in the front just going,
yeah,
just pounding on the door trying to break it in, and it's like again that tension is building up, and like the fist pounds get like faster.
Yeah, and so it's doing this, and I'm thinking, well, I even turned to you and I say, how are they getting out of this? Because like they can't defeat this group.
No,
they can't defeat them. There's no way they're going to defeat all of these guys, all these Dark Troopers. And I said, I don't even know if a Jedi could defeat all these.
At this point, we was kind of under the assumption that those Beskar steal as their armor. At least I was under the presumption. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we knew it was something very strong, and and it's just a lot of them too, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what can save them at this point. And but then let me go back real quick to what I have been at least predicting for a long time now.
Yeah.
And what I've been hoping was going to happen, and I've always hoped that my dream was that Luke Skywalker would show up, save the day at the end for whatever was going on. He would come and save the day, and that would be how we get the Jedi that
we've been thinking that for a while. Yeah.
And boy, did it deliver. Because as the Dark Troopers are beating on that, all of a sudden they look over and they see on the cam, like, you see an X-wing, and at this point I freak out. I immediately started just like
jumping up and down,
freaking out,
and I'm like screaming,
Braxton,
like, stop!
Braxton's like, whoa, wait, like Braxton's like, we don't overshare. I'm like, I don't care.
Listen,
I'm like, it's gotta
I was at the point like I knew it was Luke, but I didn't want to get my hopes up if it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there was just ever a speck in my mind, because dude, I'm just saying, if after all that and it wasn't Luke, I would have like jumped out of the window.
I think for me, like, sure, anyone could have shown up in an X-Wing, right?
Yeah.
But for me, the way I looked at it was there was no way anyone else, they were going to represent anyone else showing up in an X-Wing at that moment than Luke Skywalker.
Very classically tied to Luke. You know
exactly. And so when I saw it, to me, I was like, it's got to be. be. And so we had these two different reactions going on. But and then as soon as you see this hooded figure, I'm just like, ah! And Braxton's like, wait.
Hold on. I mean, I'm clearly freaking out, but I'm just still, hold on. I mean, I'm jumping up and down, but I'm still, hold on.
It's so true. You were jumping up and down, but you were like, you just kept saying, hold on.
I'm trying to calm myself down, but it's not working.
So then they're... So like then the lightsaber comes out and he's slashing up some droids,
and you can't see the color.
You can't see the color. And so in the middle of me freaking out, I'm jumping up and down. He's jumping up and down, but he's saying, "Hold on." I go, just wait. If you see it's green, just get excited. If it's green, it's okay.
Say that the clip scene.
It goes to the actual color, and you see the green lightsaber. You see the glove. You see the lightsaber itself. And then we just flip.
We went
out
bananas on that one, baby. We went
my
absolutely wild.
Goodness, they actually did it,
dude.
They actually.
It was crazy. People over there actually brought Luke Skywalker.
They actually brought Luke Skywalker. My gosh, dude. Arguably the biggest, one of the most important characters in all Star Wars.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
absolutely.
the most important in some eyes. And and here he is, brought back. And this is why it meant so much. Not only because I love the character of Luke Skywalker, not only because he's just a cool Jedi, but of course the nostalgia of it, seeing him back again, it was just made us feel
so
like children.
I mean, literally,
but also for recent events as well, because when you look at the sequel trilogy, and some people love it, and that's okay. Some people hate it, and that's okay too. Whatever your thoughts are. For me though, I had struggled with the sequel trilogy because of the way they present Luke Skywalker. To me, that's not the Luke Skywalker I know.
I agree.
And even a lot of time can change people and events can change people, but I think the core of Luke Skywalker is a hero. And this was the hero, Luke Skywalker.
This is what we had been waiting on.
This is what we've been waiting on. Of course, it's a younger version of it than we had hoped to see, of course, in the sequel trilogy. But it's still an experienced Luke Skywalker, right?
Yeah.
We're talking
10 years, maybe something like that.
Well, it's I always get this wrong.
Well, I'm pretty sure 6 years after.
6 years after Return of the Jedi,
first
right?
episode of Mandalorian is 6 years after.
So yeah, so he's been he's been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
And boy does it show. And this we finally get to see Luke Skywalker at some of his highest potential.
Yeah.
And the same reason why we were so excited about Boba Fett. We got to see Boba Fett at his highest potential. And we're seeing these characters finally realized and how we've seen them and dreamed about them for many years.
Like how you mean, yes, I've never seen it, but I know Luke Skywalker will fight like this. Like he's going to be super powerful
and
and
we
elegant.
got it in Legends. I mean, of course, we got tons of heroic stories about Luke and the crazy stuff he could do. I mean, by the end of the Legends novels, Luke was basically invincible. The stuff he could do was insane.
Yeah.
And of course, it went a whole different direction in canon. But to see Luke Skywalker do the things he did in this, to see him be that was a moment I will never forget.
No, it was so good.
It thrilled me. And what I loved about it is that not only did we get this scene and it was cool, and all the little stuff he did with those lightsaber and the Force and all that was great, but the one thing that I was just like, oh man, they did it, and it's amazing, is they framed this to be like the Darth Vader scene in Rogue One.
But the light side version of it.
In the final hallway there where all those dark troopers were, that was not a coincidence.
No,
that was not a coincidence.
Not.
That was intentional. They, like father, like son.
Yeah.
And I loved it so
dude,
much.
It's so good.
It's interesting.
It's so good.
The beginning of the Darth Vader scene, you got the fog and the smoke or whatever, and you see the lightsaber glowing. Well, in this one, it's at the end. At the end, when he walks through the door, you get the lightsaber glowing and the fog smoke stuff. So
good.
It beautifully done. I could not have been more thrilled, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
And then of course you see his face. Now this is the part where, like, sure, it wasn't perfect, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could tell that it was CGI.
It wasn't perfect, but for me, that's okay. I love that it's Mark Hamill.
Right.
I mean, I was not 100% against them recasting if it was going to be a very lengthy role, but since it's a short role like it was, I'm glad that it's Mark Hamill de-aged. I know there was a body double and stuff, but I'm not sure about the voice, how that worked out. Like,
I'm not sure either, because they have the credits to Mark Hamill, so I'm feeling like, again, it's just
maybe
voice stuff, but
maybe they like messed with it.
Yeah, a modulation or I know in times past that, and other, maybe not just necessarily stars, but I know this technology exists where they could take two different voices and mesh them together. So maybe like he said it.
Well, they did that for Obi-Wan in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. So,
or sorry, no, not Rise of Skywalker. In The Force Awakens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, they may have did it in Rise of Skywalker too. I don't know,
I'm
but
not sure either. But well, I mean,
but they definitely did it in Force Awakens.
When did they bring on you? Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but what did they bring?
Rey, these are your first steps. They added Alec Guinness saying Rey on top of it.
So I see what you're saying.
Both of their
I see what you're
voices
saying. Okay,
Rey.
Yeah. Yes. So we know that the technology exists. So it may be that they use vocal masking to some degree, where they take his modulations of his old voice when he's younger and put it over his
and maybe voice. This season 2, the making of season 2 that we're getting on Christmas Day might give us some more information on how they did that stuff and how they used Mark Hamill in it.
Yeah.
But I was pleased. I could look past the little bit of, I mean, you could tell CGI and stuff. Yeah. I could look past that and just enjoy the magic of it all.
I didn't care.
It did not bother me at all.
No.
I was okay with it, but you can continue with the actual plot.
Well, essentially, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, again, just talking about it is making me speechless. I'm just so excited about it.
It's hard to believe that it actually happened.
So yeah, let's just get through the story, and we can go a little further if we need to. But essentially, at this point, he comes in and he's like, immediately, Din is like, "Are you a Jedi?" Which is, to us it seems so crazy. Like, "Are you a Jedi?" It's like, of course he's a Jedi. He's anyway. So and he's like, "Yes, I am." And he's like, and then immediately, like nothing else is said, he immediately looks over to Grogu and says, he doesn't even say anything. I'm pretty sure he just says like, "Come with me," or let's go, like, because he already knew it needed to happen. He'd already communicated with him through the Force, and immediately you can tell Grogu looks kind of hesitant, right? He kind of ducks behind the chair that he's sitting in, And Din's like, I don't think he wants to go with you. He's like, no, it's not that he doesn't want to go with me. He's waiting for your permission to say yes.
Oh my goodness. My heart.
So obviously Din goes over there and picks him up and looks at him. He's like, you know, go on, buddy. You know, you can go with him, you know.
Yeah.
And immediately Baby Yoda, you know, like looks at him and he's like, you know, and puts his little hand on his helmet. Basically like, I want to see you. Like if I'm going to go, I want to connect with you.
Yeah.
And man, dude, Din takes his helmet off, looks at Grogu with like tears in his eyes.
Yeah, and in that moment you can tell like this kid means more to him than anything else. The creed, forget the creed. This kid means more.
Literal, like he had no hesitations. He literally just took his helmet off.
He takes it off, and for me, I think that he's officially turned a new page.
Yeah,
I don't think he follows that anymore after this.
Yeah, I don't know.
mean, he broke it technically, right?
Sure.
He broke the belief of having to leave that, not showing your face. He showed it to just a whole room full of people.
Yeah, and if nothing else, Grogu and Luke.
I mean, at least, right?
Yeah, at least.
And and I think it's kind of showing like, you know, that I think of course he's already started to question some of it, but I think even more so now he's finding out what's more important. And, but man, what an emotional moment.
Man, my heart was just literally hurting. My chest hurt.
And just seeing that bond there that we've watched grow now for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
and then knowing that, you know, he's gonna leave, and you could tell like it was hard for both of them to separate at this point.
But what's really cool is he sets him down and he like turns him around a little bit and he starts waddling over to Luke's up, and all of a sudden R2D2 comes in the corner and like, yes, you know, it's so good to see them together again.
Yes, so exciting to see that. And I think they knew each other.
Yeah, somehow, some way. I'm not really sure how that worked.
Well, I mean, R2D2 would have been at the temple.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, that's true.
You have to remember, he was there up until Order 66, so R2D2 would have been around. I'd say they did know each other. And I honestly, it kind of almost seemed like R2D2 is like, they're like talking.
Yeah,
like R2D2 is talking,
doing his whistles, and Baby Grogu's like,
and then right after that, he kind of opens his arms up, and I think he almost felt more comfortable because he knew R2D2, and R2D2 was talking to him.
But that's what I was gonna bring up. Like that's the next big thing. That like he like comes up and just kind of stands there beneath Luke, and just all of a sudden just lifts his little hands like, pick me up.
Yeah,
like,
and the other important thing, and maybe you just already said it, but Luke says, or because he says he doesn't want to go with you, and Luke says
he's waiting for your permission.
Well, but he also says, you know, this child is not going to be safe until he's trained.
Oh, like right. Until he masters his own abilities.
Yeah. Like he has to be trained. He's never going to be safe until he is.
Yeah.
And basically, and then I love that he says, I'll give my life for this child.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was really cool.
So
like,
cool.
you know, just already Luke Skywalker is just like, I'll give my life for this child. If
I have to say it. But like, that's Luke. That's Luke. That is Luke. He doesn't even know this kid, and he's willing to just give his life for him.
Exactly.
That's it. That's all I'm gonna say.
He's not. Well, I'm gonna say it. He's not gonna sneak over the top of his on the top of his nephew's bed and think about killing him.
And not even do that. Ignite his lightsaber.
Yeah. Bunch of baloney.
I know, and I said I didn't want to go into it because we did our poll. Apparently, a lot of you
love it.
So,
bunch of Luke Skywalker traitors.
Oh, I wasn't gonna go there, but okay. No.
Hey,
seriously though,
there's a lot of things about The Last Jedi I do love.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff in that movie. Like the whole throne room scene with Snoke is amazing. What do you?
There's No, I'm gonna say that for real though. For real. Yeah, the throne room was amazing.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
I was gonna say, when we do this, guys, please know we're just kidding.
Yeah,
you know,
we're always messing around.
If you love The Last Jedi, please know we're just joking.
There is no right or wrong way to love Star Wars.
Yeah,
we all love.
There's different interpretations
to
characters and stuff that we didn't enjoy, that we thought kind of took away from the character. But that's our opinion, right? That's our thought process. So if you thought that made Luke good, 'cause I've talked to people who literally thought that was the best of Luke. I can't conceive of that, but that's just my viewpoint, right?
Right.
And it may be their viewpoint that's the best of Luke. So yes,
but each to their own. Yeah,
we're
just messing around.
Yeah, but to me that was Luke Skywalker. He just meets this kid. He doesn't even know. I mean, I'm gonna give my life for this kid if I need to. Yep. Like I'll train him. I'll do whatever it takes. Yep. And interesting, such a crazy turn of events. from Luke to Ahsoka, or from Ahsoka to Luke, and how they approached it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because here's the thing. Look at that scene. You know that there's a connection between Baby Yoda and Mando, right? And you can feel the fear because he was hiding behind. So the same elements that made Ahsoka turn away didn't turn away Luke. Now, he didn't see the downfall of somebody close to him because of those feelings like Ahsoka did. But I'm just saying, just an interesting observation that those same elements were there, and Luke, unlike Ahsoka, literally just like, let's go. I'm ready to take my life for him.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting.
So,
but we also know Ahsoka still at this point doesn't agree with the Jedi Order, doesn't agree with the way they did things, where Luke is trying to now mimic the Jedi Order in a sense.
And I guess at this point, like kind of like alluding to what I just said, he didn't have the viewpoint that Ahsoka did. He didn't know the Jedi Order like she did. He didn't see the downfall.
Only stories and things that he's heard. Yeah.
Right. He didn't see the downfall of
yeah, and so and as we know, things do kind of go bad at the Jedi Temple eventually.
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
But so but
that's a whole other discussion.
But he goes, and takes Grogu with him, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say here, I know some people are speculating on this being the end of seeing Grogu. I do not believe this is the end of seeing Grogu.
Nah, me either.
I think the Mandalorian, the show, The Mandalorian, is about Mando and Grogu. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he really is being taken out of the show. I don't believe that.
I find it hard to believe. Here's something that Drew and I talked about, and I do believe is that there will be a time that we may not see him, or there is a perceived amount of time that we don't see him.
Sure.
I.e., season 3, there's a time jump, or season 3, there's a couple episodes where he's not in there, and there's a perceived time jump. So that on episode 3,
of course, that then brings in a whole other slew of questions with all these new series that are technically connecting to the Mandalorian. Right. All of those having a time jump. That's where it gets confusing.
Yeah,
right?
It's a whole other discussion. Right?
But however they do it, I don't necessarily see Grogu just being gone from the Mandalorian.
Sure.
But I think what is cool is this potentially means we could get some kind of Luke Skywalker and Grogu story. And how they choose to do that, I don't know what platform they would do that on. Maybe it's just in a novel, or probably animated would maybe be one of the best options.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I mean, there's going to be a story to tell there, right? But I think I don't think Mando is going to just let Grogu be at the temple for the rest of his life. I think he fully plans on getting him back once he feels like he can help defend himself and master these abilities a little bit better. Yeah. And so with that being said, we talk about the Jedi Temple being destroyed. I've heard all kinds of people already on the internet freaking out because because Kylo Ren destroys the temple. Right. And now it means Grogu's there. No. You guys have to remember, this is still 30 years away. Grogu is most likely not there anymore, right? Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say Grogu does not train for the next 30 years there. No. I would say he trains for a much, much shorter period of time, and then ends up back with... This is a lot,
but maybe even 10 years, right? Maybe even 10 years.
I would say that's to the fullest extent because he's already powerful in the Force. He just needs to learn how to control it a little better. And I think in the end, he's going to still be back with his family, which is Din Djarin. Right. So I think that's going to be the final outcome there. I think they are going to get back together at some point.
I agree.
So, but that's just to let all of you know my thoughts on that ending there. But
yeah, I agree. Overall, last words I'll have on this before I hand it back to you to close this out. It's just I'm sad and I'm excited. I'm excited because it's ended, but man, I'm excited for the next season. I'm excited for all the things that we're gonna get.
Yeah, well, we're not closing out just yet.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
We have an after credits scene to talk about.
Oh my gosh, how did I forget about that?
I purposely didn't put that in the news because since they kind of made it a secret, we're not going to talk about it in the news today. But it's kind of our last news story, really.
How did I forget that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm tired or something. I don't know. Okay, well, yeah. So let's dive into that. So I think it's because I'm not used to after credit scenes. Maybe that's why. So anyway, like I said, as you go into the credits after the ends and stuff like that, there's no art, and the music is very somber and things of that nature. It's just. I'm sorry. I was gonna not say this, but music in this episode is so good. We got a lot of classic, good Mandalorian soundtracks. The crazy, cool dubstep stuff, very experimental. But then all of a sudden, when we see Luke, it goes back to the classic Force theme.
Oh yes, how did we not reference that?
Good.
Yeah, yes,
so good,
so good. Well, and as they're fighting, I even said to you, like, I feel like we should be getting more of like a traditional Star Wars.
I agree.
Traditional Star Wars music right now.
Yeah, we're thinking it's weird that we're not getting that.
Right,
yeah.
but then once he took the hood off, showed his face, it went into the John Williams, and it was so good. Loved it.
So anyway, like I said, the music was very somber, kind of different. We got in the credits there was no art, so I thought that was weird. So we get into the end of it, and also an after credit scene comes up, and we see the twin sons of Tatooine once more, and then it shows Jabba's palace, which was very interesting. And I'm not going to act like we weren't surprised, or that we were surprised, because so we were going through the credits, and we're like trying to find out who is the body double for Luke, right?
Yeah, anytime a new character comes up or anything, we usually like stop on the credits, make sure we understand who did what, right? And so we're looking.
Andrew spoiled this for me. How dare you? So we're sitting there looking for who body doubled Luke, excuse me, and all of a sudden, oh goodness, I literally blanked on his name.
Bib Fortuna.
Yeah, he's like, Fortuna. Wait, when was he in this episode? And he's like, I'm like, wait, what?
I was like, Bib was not in this. I haven't seen him anywhere.
And I'm like, oh no. It's like I was looking, look how much time we have left. There's an after credit scene. It's like, did you just ruin the after credit scene for me?
I was like, there's no way that we saw him. I was like, I would not have missed that.
So anyway, long story short, we get we get to there. We see the twin sons. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, there's the answer.
Yeah.
But we see Jabba's palace, which is super cool, and then we see Bib Fortuna had kind of taken up the shell of his master's role there and became this big fat lardo that's sitting on the throne and ordering people around.
He's been eating good.
He has been eating great. And ordering people around and stuff, and also we hear the classic McClunky. And but all of a sudden we see someone walking down the infamous stair steps and see the shadow, and all of a sudden Fennec Shand comes around the corner and just starts blasting, and people just die left and right.
Yeah.
And a classic Twi'lek dancer's chained to the throne. She shoots the chain and she runs off and stuff. And all of a sudden everyone's basically gone except for Bib, and he's sitting there. And Fennec's in front of her, and all of a sudden this next shadow comes down, and of course it's Boba Fett. Oh, so good. And it stands in front of him, and Bib's kind of like, proverbially sweating, and he's like, "Oh, Boba, it's a long time no see. It's so good to see you, my friend." It's kind of like, "Hey, don't kill me." And it's so good to see you. Blah blah blah. As he's talking, Boba just goes, it just kills him immediately. So good. Walks up, just pushes him off the throne.
Yeah.
And his body falls on the floor. And then the beautiful, wonderful last shot was we see Boba just sits down like a gangster, on the throne. We got Fennec kind of sitting on the armrest with his arm around him with some chug jug from Fortnite, some slurp juice or whatever it's called, and she's about to hit the chug jug, and basically, but this beautiful scene of where
it's such a good image.
And he's just so menacing and looks so sick.
Cool.
But
I love the Rancors on the.
Oh yeah,
it's got the Rancor
gilded Rancor head
there.
On the throne.
Oh, so good.
Looks so good. But at the very end, it kind of cuts to black, and it says the Book of Boba Fett. December 2021.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The
what?
Book of Boba Fett.
Is this crazy or what? Another, I guess, show, movie. I don't even know what this is yet.
This is where it gets really confusing because Okay, so they've talked about getting the Mandalorian season 3 is coming Christmas 2021.
Yeah.
Then they said and then they showed those other shows, the Ahsoka show, they showed Rangers of the New Republic. And then this is where her words. The next chapter comes in December 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she talked about how all those are going to connect together into one big final story of some sort.
Well,
still don't really understand how any of that works, right?
Whatever. Yeah.
So now this throws another thing into the mix of all the confusion.
Technically a 4th show.
Well, and so that's where the confusion lies. Is this a show? Is this a movie? is this season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Is this the next chapter they're going to focus on?
Yeah.
While Baby Yoda's training.
Right. That's where the confusion lies. And I have repeatedly looked today since we watched it to see if Star Wars has updated us on this. They have not, and that's because I think they want to keep this a surprise for most people. So we may not hear about any answers till maybe next week.
I'm almost guaranteed we're gonna probably hear it Monday.
I think. Well, Monday's when they usually start showing things, so they may on Monday give us an idea of exactly what they mean by this.
Yeah.
But I don't think. I do not think they will do 2 Star Wars shows at once.
Yeah, I think
they're going to do these shows one at a time. So that being said, we can't truly be getting all of these in December 2021. So I think the key words that Kathleen Kennedy said is important, and that's when she says the next chapter starts in December 2021.
Yeah,
and so her saying that makes me think that the Boba Fett. The book of Boba Fett is the next chapter.
Right.
Now, is that its own series, or is that season 3 of The Mandalorian?
And could it be that it is season 3 of The Mandalorian that gets taken off into its own show later on? Right.
I mean, we've been hearing a long time about this Boba Fett series. We knew it was coming. We figured, I mean, we talked about it last week. We figured they didn't talk about it because of the show. And we were right. They wanted to wait and make it a big reveal at the end.
Sure.
And that's okay. It was cool to do it that way. But the problem is that it leaves us with this like confusion on what it is.
Yeah. So I hope, like I said, hopefully Monday they cleared this up for us, but we'll see.
I mean, we've been hearing it's a spinoff, right?
Yeah, that was always the presumption.
Been the presumption is that it's a spinoff. We thought it was going to be a prequel.
Yeah.
This sounds
apparently not.
Well, but the other thing, when you think about the book of Boba Fett, to me that means maybe stories of Boba Fett, not necessarily in chronological order, not necessarily a linear story, but just showing stories of Boba Fett from different periods of time.
Well, and right, this puts him perfectly back into that position of where his story started, began, ended, whatever you want to say, right? Okay, the end of Return of the Jedi, where he gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit. Yeah. Where is he at? Right next, in Tatooine, right next to Jabba's palace, right? So that it could very well be. It starts off with him becoming this bustling crime lord in the stead of Bib and Jabba, right?
I definitely think he's the next big crime lord of Tatooine for sure. Yeah. I think that's definitely the.
So, but am I saying like we start to see him build his empire, but then it flashes back to maybe a couple episodes or several episodes where it shows him like getting knocked into the Sarlacc pit and all that sort of building up to where he's at now, or maybe it's a short little clips, short little flashbacks. I don't know, but. Whatever it may be, very exciting.
It's very exciting, but there's just so much we still don't know to really give any kind of definite answer on where it's headed. I mean, I hope that we're getting I hope we're getting Mandalorian season 3 on its own. I don't necessarily know that I need this. I don't need the next season of Mandalorian to be about Boba Fett.
Yeah,
I don't want
it to be that either.
I think Boba Fett would be great to have his own series, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But we know all this is leading up to something. I personally think all these shows are leading up to be a part of their new version of Thrawn's the heir to the Empire. I think that's where all this is truly headed.
I agree.
I think they're headed towards Thrawn being the big bad and recreating that trilogy in their own new way with these new characters. And technically now Luke could still be even involved in that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that maybe is a stretch, but it's possible.
It's absolutely possible. The timeline could line up, like I said, between now and even before Force Awakens, there's like 30 some years. I mean, so it can happen.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see, but exciting stuff for the future of Star Wars.
Super exciting.
But
super exciting.
Do you have anything else you want to say about it?
Again, I'm a little disheartened that it's over, but man, I'm so excited for.
We spent a lot of time today on this episode, but hey,
it's a finale.
It's a finale. Luke Skywalker came back. That's all a big deal. Not even including all the other big news stories we got. But guys, the future Star Wars is bright. We're so excited to continue to talk to you guys about it, and we hope that you have enjoyed this. We hope that you continue to love Star Wars and enjoy hearing our takes on Star Wars, and we love to hear yours as well. So
Yeah.
feel free to comment on these posts with your thoughts and feelings on it, or DM us anything. We would love to hear your thoughts. But we want to thank everyone so much for the continued support towards the podcast. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for weekly news, polls, discussions, and much more. Please also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. We would love that. And we thank you for listening. And join us in about a couple of weeks.
3.
And on January 9th for episode 44. But until next time, have a Merry Christmas. May the Force be with you. And we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.